What we're going to do now is continue with what I call innate Dhamma, knowing innate Dhamma. In the previous section, I talked about the five aggregates, in Pali calls the five khandhas, And the first khandha is material form, which is rupa. Second is feelings, which is vedana. Third is perception, which is sanya. Fourth, it is sankhara, which is views, thoughts, and other things else. And finally, vijnana, the fifth khandha, is consciousness. Now I want to talk about the perception, sanya. You all know what feelings are. Vedana is something very simple. What you feel is simply feelings. Sankhara is thoughts, something you know. Views is something you also know. Now this perception, sanya, is something else. Okay. First of all, what we consider under perception is memories, stored memories, it is something that we remember, but is it a short memory or long memories, So there is another part of sanya, or perception, which is very important, and what I call mental-identikits. What is mental-identikit? We create mental-identikits to be able to identify things in this world, right? So that's its purpose, So when we see something, we can identify it, right? Well, we have to form the first mental identikit, So it all starts when you're a baby, And then you see this woman, feeding you, treat you nicely. And then you come to know that this is your mother, you have a label for it. Then you have a mental identity of your mother. You know what your mother does, feed you, clean you, talk to you. And then you find that there is somebody called an auntie, who comes to you, pinch your cheek, and tickle you. And that's your mental identity, of a woman called your auntie. So as soon as your auntie comes in, you know who she is. You have a mental identity of her. So as we grow up from a baby, we create mental identities. So we can identify things in the world, and you identify what are your toys, you identify what can be eaten, what can't be eaten, and with all that. So our world is made up of all the mental identities that we have stored in this world. So as soon as we see something, if we're interested in it, we create a mental identity of it. It may not be complex, So if we have seen a thing before and we come across it in the future, you say, oh yes, I've seen this before. I don't know what it is, but I know I've seen it before, previously, when and where, right? So this is just a simple mental identity. But we have the mental identity of our parents, mental identity of our friends, mental identity of ourselves, right? So what we see, as soon as we see something, we refer back to our mental identity to see whether we can identify what we have seen. So once we are able to identify it, then we don't see the person, we see our own mental identity. Because we know what it is. We have come across it. What we have come across is just our mental identity. So what we have projected is also our mental identities. So we do not really know much about the world, apart from it is solid or liquid. All that we know of the world is our own mental identities of things in the world. So that's why there is always a different opinion or different view about things. Each person forms their own mental identity of what it is. If a thing is real, then everybody would see it clearly for what it is. But we don't. We only see our own mental identities. So that's the first thing you have to recognize. That we live in a world of our own mental identities. So when you come to know, that somebody has a different view from you about certain things, or about certain people, then you know that you are both talking about your own mental identities, not of the thing itself, not of the person, right? So this is the first truth that you have to recognize. So you don't have to argue with another person regarding who is right, because they are all mental identities. So mental identities are conditioned. If we like red, then we find anything that's red is beautiful. If it is like purple, everything that we see that's purple, we have an aversion to it. Okay, so our perception is very important. Our mental identity is the only thing that we know in the world. So if we create bad mental identities of all the things in the world, then we live in a very sad world. If we create good mental identities of all the things in the world, then we live in a happy world. But we have to make sure, good and bad mental identities, depending on our first experience. So that's why they say first impression is important, because that's the first time you create a mental identity with a feeling that you like or dislike. So once you create this first mental identity, it is very difficult to change that. See, when we create this full mental identity that we like, later on we update this mental identity with all the positive things. When we first create a mental identity that we dislike, then we update it with all the unpleasant things. See, we ignore those things that are pleasant. We are very biased in that way. It will take a lot of information, counter information, for us to be able to change our mental identity. Or it would take somebody who we respect or people of authority to tell us that our mental identity is wrong before we would accept it. Okay, so the first thing to know is that what we come to know in this world are just our mental identity. Okay, so we want to be careful, in the mental identity we create, and we also do not want to create conflicts by arguing about this mental identity, who is right or who is wrong. It is not sure because each of us create our mental identity according to our conditioning. So that's the first thing to know about perception. Now there is the 6 consciousness that I've talked about. 5 of the consciousness relate to our 5 senses. That means to our hearing, to our smelling, to our tasting, to our seeing, and to our body consciousness, tactile consciousness. Now, the one I want to talk about is mental consciousness, the mind, right? There are 2 things happening in our mind. There are 2 processes. One is the mental consciousness. That means we are aware of mental objects, right? Like thoughts, like views, intention, you know. So that comes from mental consciousness. Its purpose is to be aware of mental objects or mental phenomena arising within the mind. So where does all these mental phenomena arise from? So this is the subject I'm going to talk about tonight. There is a process called dependent origination. So you may have a diagram of this dependent origination and its resulting acts, So the process of dependent origination starts with contact. Right? If you see at the bottom of your chart, you see the process of dependent origination. At the end, it starts with at the end of the page, it starts with contact. From contact, we get feeling. From feeling, we get craving. From craving, it goes to attachment. And from attachment, it goes to becoming. Right? Now, contact. Contact means contact with an external object or mind, or mental phenomena within our mind. Okay, so for contact to happen, we have to have this sense consciousness and a sense object, right? So when there is a sense, a visual object, and we have visual consciousness, then we have visual contact. And it also depends that we have an eye or working eye, Okay. So contact depends on 3 things: the sense object, sense consciousness, and sense base. The base is the eye base, or eye sensitivity. So it's the same for all the other 5 senses. And also in the 6th sense of the mind. So when the mind is contact with a mental phenomena. So we have mental consciousness and we have a mind that's sensitive. So when you are dead, you don't have a working sense base. You don't have a sense consciousness. So there is no contact. Okay. So when contact happens, we are actually in contact with not the sense object, with our mental identity of that sense object. Because all we know about the world is through our mental identity. So contact actually is mental identity, sense consciousness, and the sense object. Now, mental identities, there are, if you like, 5 or 6 of them. That means we create mental identity of what we smell. We create mental identity of what we hear. As soon as we hear, we know whose voice it belongs to. So we create mental identity of it. We create mental identity, of taste, or you taste something and you know what dish it is, or even what ingredients go into the dish. So that's mental identity. So we have, if you like, 5, actually 6 mental identities, but I'm going to talk about just the 5 mental identities that related to the 5 senses. So we can be an expert, in creating mental identities. We can differentiate different wines. You can differentiate different perfumes because we learn to create mental identities of different wines, of different perfumes, right? So that is something we can cultivate. Of course, you should have a sense base, or nose which is sensitive, to be able to distinguish all that. But even then, we have to create a mental identity for a particular taste, a particular smell, or a particular sound. Okay? So this mental identity lives within our heart. So what lives within our heart are also our views that we form, from the time you're baby until now, views of ourselves, views of others, views of the way of the world. So all these views, you want to know. Similarly with mental identities, all these views are just views. They are conditioned, right? These views are all not sure. They are just views. We cannot be certain that they are right. We cannot be certain that this view of ours is obsolete. It no longer applies today. Like the views of whatever subject you've been studying, or subject I've been studying, like physics, about 30, 40 years ago, is now, obsolete altogether. Okay, so this is what we have within us, right? So dependent origination starts with contact. If there is no contact, there is no starting point of the dependent origination. You all know, when you're in contact, when you smell food, you feel hungry because of that contact. Or when you see something, there is a desire. So depending on contact, feeling arises. Right? Now, this feeling is the result of the mental identity that you have created. If you create the mental identity of a person you don't like, then when that person walks into the room, as soon as you have visual contact of that person, feelings for that person, for that feeling from that mental identity arises. You don't have a choice. It is a result of the mental identity that you have created. So, depending on contact with the mental identity, feeling arises. Depending on feeling, when it's strong, it becomes craving, or it goes to aversion when the feeling is disliked. When craving is strong, it becomes attachment or clinging. You cling to it. When the attachment is strong, you become. There is becoming. It is, say for example, you like something, and then you crave for it, wanting it, After that, after having it, right, you are attached to these things. And then you become somebody who is attached to this thing. Right? Example is food, craving for a particular food. Then you become one who craves for this particular food. Right? You are a pizza person or you're a spaghetti person. Yeah. But there are words becoming an addict. Yeah. So everything that you like or dislike will go to craving or aversion, and you become an addict if you do not watch out. If that continues to grow, one of the things that most of us are addicted is the internet, right? Because we like it, we crave to it, we attach to it, and become one, who is addicted to the internet. Okay, so that's the process of dependent origination. It progresses, from just a feeling of like or dislike, and can end up being an addict. So we want to be able to reduce, to stop this process of dependent origination. So when we see, hear, smell, there is already contact. When we have disliking or disliking, we have a feeling for it. Usually it is automatic from contact. And when we want or do not want That means we have a craving or aversion to it. When we have this love and hate, we have reached a point of attachment and animosity. So when we become an addict, that is already a becoming. It is when we become, that is the time when we create karma. We become angry, we speak angrily, and we become angry, we act angrily, right? So that's when we create karma, which have results, When we have not reached becoming, we just have a very strong tendency, right? This dependent origination can start from contact straight away to becoming. Is dependent on our tendencies. There are people who have hate tendencies or angry tendencies. As soon as it's contact, they become an angry person. So for things that we do not have much feeling for it, we can go through this process. Contact, feeling, food that we like or we don't particularly like or don't particularly dislike. So we go to stage contact, feeling, like or dislike. And then we can have it or not have it. Right? But if it is a food we really like, as soon as we see it, we grab it to eat it. Right? So this dependent origination, can progress instantly from contact to becoming. So one of the things that we want to know at what stage we are in this process of dependent origination, we have to see the results of our action. If you are liking and disliking somebody, we are only staying at the second stage of feeling. We want or do not want, then you are at this third stage, of craving. When you have attachment and animosity, we have in its fourth stage. And when we become, that's in the fifth stage. That is where there is an arising of self, arising of a person. It is a temporary person, an angry person, a greedy person, a jealous person, an envious person, right? It comes up and then it sees, sometimes you get angry, uh, and then there arises this angry person which speaks harshly. Okay, or it can be a lustful person, which arises at that particular moment. Okay? So at each stage, we have a skillful way of dealing in with. With mental identity, we do not want to fabricate it. Fabricate means to make it more than what it is. Right? So if we have a mental identity of a person, which we don't like, we don't create more of this dislike that goes to aversion, right? That goes to hate. Okay. So as soon as we see a person, we want to identify. That's all. When feeling arises for a particular person, likes or dislike, we want to abandon it. Right. And we have aversion or craving for something. We want to learn to reduce it. Abandoning of feeling is just letting it cease by itself. Right? Because if we don't let it cease, if we stay with it, and if it increases, then it goes to craving or aversion. So if we have a craving for something, we have an aversion for something, we want to learn to how to reduce it. Okay? How do we reduce it? We stay with that aversion. We don't use that aversion to create more thoughts to increase our aversion. If we have a craving for something, we stay with that craving and let it cease. We don't use that craving to create more thought, to create a bigger craving. If we are at a stage of attachment or animosity or love and hate, right, then you want to learn to loosen it. We do not want to fasten onto that love or fasten onto that hate. We want to loosen it, reduce it. You see, what happens with attachment is that when we lose the thing that we're attached to, we fall into craving, craving for what is lost. Craving for what is lost is a painful longing. Right? Craving for what we don't have is suffering. Craving for what we have lost, which is longing for what we have lost, is suffering. Heartbreak is longing for something we have lost. And everybody knows that heartbreak can be a very, very painful suffering. So this craving or this longing depends on the intensity of our attachment. Now, if we are very attached to something or some person, when we lose it, there is this painful longing. Okay, so we do not want to be too attached to things. Okay, because when we are too attached to things, we are not normal. We become prejudiced. We favor certain things, right? We don't think clearly. We don't act with equanimity. We act with favoritism. Whether if we love somebody, if we hate somebody, then our actions are different. And if that goes further from attachment to becoming, then we are acting. And that is a very serious case, right? We are enchanted by things. When we reach that state, we want to be disgusted with ourselves for reaching those states. We want to be disgusted with our behavior so that we don't stay with that becoming. If we don't, and we become an addict, right, then we're going to suffer from withdrawal symptoms. So the best way of curing an addict is a cold turkey treatment. If we're addicted to our phone, just put away the phone for 5 days, and suffer. So we will, if we go through that stage, then we will drop down from being an addict to maybe just craving or just liking. The thing that you have to remember is that this mental-identikits views lives within our heart. It is very difficult to undo these things. All these emotions of feeling, emotions of craving, emotions of attachment, all that lives within our heart. It is very difficult to deal with it. These are the emotions that creates all our thinking. We have access to our thoughts. We know through our thoughts what emotions that we have. But the thoughts are just the result of this emotion. The emotions are the cause. Attachments are the cause. Cravings are the cause. Aversions are the cause. Liking, disliking are the cause of all our thinking. So we do not want to trust our thinking too much. We do not want to use our thinking to develop all these unhealthy emotions. We can use our thinking to overcome this emotion, to prevent this emotion from developing in its intensity, from liking to craving, from craving to attachment, from attachment to becoming. So we have to watch ourselves, because the stronger the emotion, the stronger the intensity of the pain we will suffer. So the main cause is mental identity and views. Later on, in maybe the fourth session, we'll talk about how to reduce suffering, how to work with these causes to reduce the suffering we have already had because of our attachment to mental identities and our attachment to peace. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and then take
Ajahn, some of our members have sent some practical questions. Should I ask now or in the next session?
and we can ask now, whatever question that you have, since we have time. We never know when we will have time.
Okay, Tanajan, the question is, so one of our friends said, so she asked whether Tanajan has any advice on how to deal with people who have very strong views. For example, like these views can be extreme, like anti-vaccination, anti-establishment, conspiracy theories, things like that. So this person in this case is a friend and he has very strong views and always trying to convince me of his point of view in every conversation. Sometimes these views even involve views on Buddhism. So sometimes she feels the need to like correct this person, and sometimes it becomes a pain when he picks argument about everything.
The best answer to give the person is to say not sure. Right. So when a person says, give you his view, you say it's not sure. It's not sure to be true. Right? So if the person says this, and this is so, or somebody come and say, the earth is flat, because of this, and that, all this reason, then you don't have to give a counter argument. Because when you give a counter argument, he or she will build on that counter argument. So what you do is say not sure. Right? When you say not sure, it means it is empty, of any views. You have not expressed any views. Right? So that person cannot continue. Right? So if somebody says, the earth is flat, it's just not sure. So what can he say the next thing? He cannot build on it. He might say something else, I've measured it and the earth is flat. He says, not sure your measurement is correct. I take photograph, and the earth is flat, as far as I can see. It's not sure to that. You see, when you say not sure, the person will take in what you say, right? And it creates doubt within themselves. Then they don't hold on to that view very strongly, right? When things are not sure, you cannot hold on to it. Not sure means it's empty of what's right and wrong. It's empty of beautiful and ugly. It's empty of good and bad. The not sure is uncertain. Right? So everything that he says, you say not sure. So he keep coming to you and say things, you keep saying not sure, and that will lessen his own views on the thing. You see, the thing with our mind is that whatever, when we hear something, if we do not contradict it, our mind, if you like, our heart keeps it. Right? Our heart keeps it. We remember it. We may remember sometimes, you don't give your views. You give the views that other people have imparted on you. Right? Which you haven't really figured out whether it's right or wrong. Right? But when you have labeled a view as wrong, you won't use it. But views that you haven't labeled stays with you. And times you may use it, without knowing, because that is just a view which you happen to have. Okay? So when you say not sure to somebody, if they do not object to say, no, it's not sure, or I'm sure of it, it starts creating doubt. within them. And that's a good thing. You see, when it creates this doubt within them, then they no longer hold on to that view strongly. So you are helping them. And also, you are stopping them from developing their views. Every time they propound their view, it gets stronger for them. Right? So when somebody comes with very strong views, say not sure to it. As simple as that. Okay?
Yes, thank you very much, Tanaja. Any question? Tanajan, the question is, the situation is, she had a disagreement with someone, and it was quite a severe disagreement, difference in views. And then after this incident, this person says some bad things about her behind her back to other people, spreading some gossip and things like that. So how to deal with this kind of situation?
Okay. There are certain things, that you cannot help. If people wants to gossip about you, there's nothing you can do. It is their defilement. We cannot control somebody else's behavior, right? So it comes down to their mental identity of you, right? So they create a bad mental identity of you, and they have this aversion of you, right? And then they chose to become your enemy, you know. So there is nothing much you can do after the event, right? So in future, when you have an argument with somebody, you want to know that you are both holding different views, right? Let go of your own views by saying, not sure, you know. So their views and say not sure as well to yourself, not to the other person. If you say not sure to somebody, they might get angry. So there's nothing you can do now because they have gone through that stage where he is your enemy. He is somebody who dislikes not you, but his mental identity of you. His mental identity of you, his or her mental identity of you is not you. Right? So he lives in his own mind with this suffering view of you. Right? Suffering mental identity of you. So he is also suffering. Okay? Because his or her mental identity of you is causing him to say all these things. He has this hate within him. He has this aversion within him or her. Okay? So the only thing you can do is just ignore it, that's all. That is totally his view. It has nothing to do. Supposing you can see that supposing a dog doesn't like you, it start barking at you. You cannot do anything about it, can you? All right? So you just have to let the dog keep barking, until it is satisfied, it's run out of energy, and that's it. You don't have to counteract it. That's the thing. Because what he does, has nothing to do with you. It has to do with his mental identikit of you. These things live within his mind, within his world. Your world and his world are different. We live in our own world. Everybody have a world live in a world of their own. Sometimes we share some similarities within our world, but most of the time our world differ a little bit or a lot. Okay? Just ignore, him, just know that he lives in his own world where you are his or her enemy. As simple as that. So the next time, when do not get into conflict with mental identities, with views, they are all not sure. They are all created by us, depending on our conditioning. Okay? Yeah.
Does it answer the question? Thank you so much. Okay, she says the question is answered. Thank you, Tanajan.
Okay.
More questions? Tanajan, in this situation, especially in a small world like academia, when other people spread gossip about us, it hurts our reputation and it can affect our career and our relationships with other people. So, how do we face this problem?
The only thing is to avoid people who will avoid people like that. If you know that this person is of a particular character, then you want to avoid them. They are not your friend. Yeah, they are not helpful at all. Does it mean that a particular person or just anybody?
One particular person, Tanajan.
Okay, then avoid the person as simple as that. Avoid the person if you can. You should avoid the person because the person is bringing you suffering. You don't need that suffering, and he brings you that suffering because of his own failing, and it's not because of you. It is because he creates a bad mental identity of you. That's all. So if you don't contact him, there's no feeling arises in him. There's no aversion in him. It is very difficult to change someone's mental identity. Right? If you do something good for him or her, he or she will be suspicious. Right? So you do not know, how people will react. If you know that they are not good, avoid them. That's all, as much as you can. Avoid contact with them if you can. Okay. It's just like it's just like I say, if you go near to this dog and it will start barking at you, so don't go near that dog. Okay, it will bark at you. When the dog sees you're in contact with the dog will bark at you. Okay.
Tanajan, coming back to that point, and about the thing that Tanajan taught in the beginning, when we avoid this person in practice, how do we do it without developing aversion to this person?
Yeah, we just say this person lives in his own world with a bad mental identity of you. Simple as that. Okay, and know that their mental identity of you is not you. Okay, so you have your own mental identity of you. Different people have different mental identity of you. Yeah, your mother has mental identity of you. Okay, just know this person create a, a different mental identity of you, because of his own conditioning. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tanajan. You have a question? Tanajan, the question is whether we should practice metta meditation as frequently as the samatha meditation on breath.
Should practice samatha meditation. You can practice. You can practice. If you are practicing, you practice 10% of metta meditation and 90% of samatha meditation. Okay. So if you have 1 hour, you practice 10 minutes of metta meditation, 50 minutes of samatha meditation. Okay. If you do not want to practice metta meditation, you don't have to practice metta meditation. Okay. And it's when you start reducing your own hate, and you develop this equanimity, and then later on, a loving kindness by itself. So the important thing is to get rid of this unskillfulness or defilements. Okay, so our practice is reducing defilement. What remains are all skillfulness. If you practice to develop skillfulness, you still have a lot of defilements which is going to cost you some. Okay?
Hello, Ajahn. Thank you very much for your teaching tonight. Um, I don't know how to ask this question. Just very stressful about work and think about too much about the future, family relationship. I know probably everyone has the same problem all the time. I should know the answer, but still, I can't put the theory into my practice. What should I do? Thank you.
What do you do? What do you do in these circumstances?
Well, many different methods. Most ideally is meditation or listen to soft music or shopping or eating. um, but it doesn't last very long. Yes.
So, okay, what you should do is whatever you think, if you're not sure do it. Okay, so if you're not sure to it, because things are really not sure. Okay, try think of something you're worried about. Okay, or you that's causing you stress now. Okay, and then say not sure to that thought. Do it now and see how you feel.
Yeah. Okay.
Do it now and see what happens.
Oh. Yeah. Yeah. It immediately not so real, not so stressful.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Exactly. So you keep doing it until it doesn't bother you anymore. Because when you say not sure, like it creates doubt within your heart about what you're thinking, right? And then the heart lets go. It is the heart which creates it's the emotions in the heart that creates all this thinking and distress. We are trying to make the heart let go of what we are thinking. That is causing us suffering. Okay?
Why do we say it's not true? Why we say it's not sure?
Tanajan, the question is, why don't we say it is not true? Why do we say it is not sure? She asked, why do we say not sure instead of saying not true to this thing?
The reason is that when you say not true, your mind will come back with an argument to convince you that it is true. Okay? If you say not sure, the mind cannot come back. You're not saying it is true. You're not saying it is not true. So not sure is empty of what is true and empty of what's not true. So it is a teaching of emptiness. So the mind cannot hold on to anything that is empty. So when you say not sure, the mind has no position, right, to further an argument. There is an opposite to not true, which is true, right? Then the mind can come back with something that is true. There is no opposite to not sure.
Yeah, she says it's very clear now, Tanajan. Thank
Okay.
you. More questions? Tanajan, the question is, he says, earlier when the practice was going well, he was feeling very peaceful. And then he says he was attached to this peacefulness. And now when the practice is not going so well, he doesn't get this peacefulness. And because of that, he is suffering because that past peace is no longer there and we can't get back to that peace. So how to solve this problem?
Okay. The thing is that it is the nature of the mind to get used to it. See, whatever you eat, it is sweet, right? After that, you get used to the sweetness, right? When you eat it no longer tastes as sweet as before. So the first time when you encounter peacefulness, that wow, that is really peaceful. Then your mind gets used to it. So although you get the same peace, you don't have the same reaction because your mind gets used to it. Right? So that's the reason why you find no longer peaceful. It's because your mind gets to it. Right? We have to reach this state where our mind gets used to it so it can enter into a deeper peace. Right? So every peace that we encounter, right, we will get used to it until we reach Nibbana, which is the amazing peace, then we cannot get used to it. Any peace our mind comes to know, it will get used to it. So the purpose of meditation is to follow the instruction and do whatever that you're taught to do. The result of the meditation will continue to change, right? The result that you get now the result when you get in 1 month's time, the result you get in 6 months' time of practicing meditation, the results you get from practicing a year from now, they are all going to change. The result is continually changing and developing. So what we should pay our attention to is continue to practice correctly following the instruction, and then not look forward towards the result, not get attached to the result. Okay, so you say to yourself, this is the result now. The result next time will be different, right? But you must know that you are doing the meditation as instructed. But sometimes we might change the method we practice, unconsciously for some reason or other, we change it, So long as you remember what the instructions is and continue to do it that way, you will continue to get result and improvement. Okay, so don't get attached to the result. Okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Tanaja. It was very good answer. Everything was very clear. Thank you so much for kindly giving us teachings and waking up at before 4 o'clock in the morning in Malaysia and joining us.
Okay, good night then. Oh, good morning. Okay, good night then.
Good night. Have a good day, Tanaja. Thank you.